Now let's talk a little bit about AdWords account structure and how the account is actually set up and how you'll manage things. So essentially you have your account at the top of a hierarchy. This represents your Google AdWords account. And then underneath that account or within that account, that's where everything else lies. The first level down from the top are campaigns. So you'll have campaigns that you'll set up and create. You could create just one campaign and then have a lot of other things fall under it, or you can have multiple campaigns. And there's strategies and reasons for having multiple campaigns, and I'm going to get into that later in this module. Now, under each campaign, the next level down is the ad group level. So under a campaign, you'll typically have multiple ad groups. Now, an ad group simply contains a group of keywords or one keyword. And then within the ad group, another level down to the last level are the actual ads. So the ad group is a certain list of keywords, or again, one keyword if you want to set it up that way, and I recommend that you do, and we'll get to that. But the ad group has whatever keywords, and then it has whatever ads that are going to show for the ad group. So it's your account at the top, campaigns, ad groups, and then ads within ad groups. Now there's some other settings, there's some other limitations I want to talk to you about, and there are some other options that we're going to go over as we go throughout this module for things that you should do and reasons why to do it. But that's the basics of how things are structured. Account, campaign, ad group, and then ads. And of course, in ad group would be keywords. So it's essentially account, campaign, ad group, and keywords, and then ads. So here are some account limits you need to know about. Campaigns, for each account, you can have up to 10,000 different campaigns. It's a lot. And then you can have up to 20,000 ad groups inside of those campaigns. These numbers are totaled up with active campaigns or active ad groups, as well as paused groups or paused campaigns. So that would go against the count. So any ad group at all that you set up, whether it's running or not, any campaign or not, whether it's running or not, that counts in those numbers, but they're big numbers. So 10,000 campaigns and then 20,000 ad groups within those campaigns. So that's a huge number if you multiply it together for all the possibilities. And then you can have up to 50 text ads, the actual ads themselves that show in the search results for AdWords within each ad group. So every ad group can have up to 50 different text ads. So 20,000 ad groups times 50 different ads is like 1 million combinations. So it's 1 million different ads that you could be running per campaign. So as you can see, these are some pretty big numbers. You most likely will not ever hit these limitations. You can just do tons and tons of keyword targeting and advertising with millions of combinations. So it's very, very broad. Now here's some other limitations I want you to know about. You can only have one AdWords account per business according to Google's rules. If you create another account and you try to do what's called double serving, where let's say you're in the mortgage business and you want to run an ad that'll show up number 1 or number 2 for how to get a mortgage, and then you're getting great traffic and making money from it, and you want to target that same keyword because it's so valuable, so you're like, hey, I'm going to create another AdWords account and then run different ads to like a different website and target the same keyword. Well, if Google catches you doing that, which is what's called double serving, they can totally ban you and terminate your accounts. So you don't want to do that. It's not worth it. There are some exceptions, and I'm not going to get into all the gray areas of that. I have briefly mentioned it before, but you could technically set up a new corporation in the same market to essentially clone your existing business, and technically that's within their rules because it's a separate business or separate entity. However, it's gray area. If they find out and they see there are similarities and they believe it's one person, it can cause problems. So really, it's not worth it. I wouldn't recommend it, even if it's gray area legal and within their terms of service and within their guidelines. So one AdWords account per business. Now, if you want to be in the business of managing other people's AdWords campaigns, and it's a great business. It's a great cottage industry, so to speak, that's been created around AdWords. Because AdWords is so valuable and because it takes some management skills and skills period to do it right, so many businesses will pay you to manage AdWords campaigns for them, and you can get paid by a flat fee for your time, or a lot of companies manage AdWords accounts and get paid a percentage of what the advertiser spends, like 10% of everything they spend, or it can be a revenue share based on profit generated. All different options. You can do searches for that in Google and find out how to price a pay-per-click management agency if you want to do that kind of stuff. And in the resources section, I'll link to information about how Google has a special account that you can set up, an AdWords manager account, where if you do manage other people's AdWords accounts, that's how you'll do it. You can link them to your main manager account and you can set different permissions. And so from one account, you can manage all different accounts for different clients. So something you may want to look into. Now, only campaigns at the campaign level have actual budget settings. Now, when we get into more strategy about campaigns, I'll explain some things, and that budget settings thing is very important. In your AdWords account, you can set a daily budget, let's say $500 that you want to spend. Google will optimize the traffic, the impressions, everything, and the estimated clicks and costs and all that good stuff throughout a 24-hour period based on the daily budget that you have set for a campaign. So if you have a campaign set up and you have all your ad groups under just one campaign, if you name your campaign My Website and then you have all your ad groups under one campaign, all those ad groups are controlled by that single budget setting. So you're probably already thinking that's probably not very good strategy. Well, it's not. There are some very good reasons to have multiple campaigns and multiple different budget settings and the ability to set them at higher or lower rates and have them run independently of each other for when they exhaust funds or when they may run for a longer period of time with a larger budget, so on and so forth. So there are actually some creative controls now within the automated rules that we'll go over, what are called automated rules. And there are some ways to creatively use those to control budgets within ad groups, kind of, but I don't recommend it. And when we get to how to structure things and what our strategy is going to be for you, you got to keep in mind that campaigns are very powerful because of those budget settings. Now, ad groups have a limitation that you need to know about. By the way, there's some other limitations and settings, but we're just going to cover these for now for you to think about. We'll get to the other ones later. So ad groups are limited to only one domain name for destination URLs and display URLs. So in an ad group, whether you're targeting one keyword or a bunch of keywords and you're running ads to that group, you can only have one domain name that shows up in the ad itself. And then when people click on the ad, you must send them to the same domain name. Now, we're going to get to this, and one of the very powerful ways to increase your click-through rate, which can, of course, increase everything in a good way in your account, lower your cost per click, but increase quality scores and relevancy and ad rank and everything else to get you more traffic at a lower cost. One of those things we're going to talk about is our display URLs and how Google gives you this gift to essentially display a URL in the ad that's not the URL where someone goes when they click. And there are strategic reasons for that, and we'll talk all about that when we get to display URLs. They're awesome. They're often overlooked, but it's a great strategy. I'll teach you some tricks and strategies for how to use that to your benefit. But destination URLs, that's actually where someone's going to end up when they click. So it may be a very long URL or it could be a short URL, but either way, you have to use the same domain name. So if it's yoursite.com, and that's where you're going to send people, then in the display URL, you also have to use yoursite.com. You can't use, as they use an example, you can't use example.com in the ad, and when people click, actually send them to google.com. Now, however, there is a minor exception to this, and Google does have some leeway with that if you're using a tracking service and having things redirect for tracking purposes. So where it'll go through another domain for tracking and then kind of come back to your domain. The rules change on that a little bit. I suggest at this time you just Google that if that is going to be your situation, how to get around using a redirect URL that's different from what you're going to have in your ad. But essentially, you need to have the same domain that's in the destination URL as well as the display URL, because those are the rules.